Josh, welcome to the program. Tell us about your piece, No One is Buying It.
Yeah, Charlie, great to join you as always. So look, I mean, watching the Democratic National Convention this week, which, first of all, let me just say, I mean, it's kind of old hat. It's trite to call the current manifestation of the Democratic Party socialist or woke, whatever. I mean, Charlie, I think you'd probably agree that what we saw this week in Chicago is outright demonic and satanic. I mean, the Planned Parenthood van, the on-demand abortions, come for an ice cream sundae, stay for an abortion. Come for a slice of pizza, stay for your vasectomy. We'll snip your vas deferens while you're at it. I mean, this is satanic stuff. But if there was one leitmotif, if there was one theme over the course of this convention, and it definitely was not substantive, they didn't touch on any of the actual issues. Some people were saying that Kamala Harris touched on substance last night because she vaguely alluded to getting you affordable housing. That's not a policy. That's just a vague reference hiding as a policy. But if there was one theme throughout the week, it's this idea that they're unified, that it's like a grand kumbaya up there, that we're all just one happy family. And the point of my column, No One is Buying This, is just that no one who has more than 2 brain cells operating between the ears is actually buying this. Joe Biden gets up there Monday evening, says he's not angry at the coup plotters. He's not angry at Barack Obama, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I mean, for basically that entire month from the CNN debate until the July 21st coup, Joe Biden and his team were defiant that he was not going anywhere. He skipped town. He jetted to California right after his speech so that he wouldn't be there for Barack and Michelle on Tuesday. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, they were in Milwaukee when Barack and Michelle spoke. Apparently, so says Jackie Heinrich of Fox News, apparently they were there, and this is what common sense would indicate as well, they were there because she didn't want to offend her putative boss, Joe Biden, by being in the same room as Barack and Michelle Obama. So this notion that they're unified, I mean, as recently as 2.5 months ago, before the June 27 debate, early this year, they were all saying on the left, they were trying to encourage Joe Biden to ditch Kamala Harris because she was viewed as a weight, as an albatross around the neck here because she's catastrophically unpopular. The woman is about as likable, as I say, as venereal disease. And now they're saying that she's the grand savior, that this party is unified around here. Barack Obama does the whole yes, she can shtick, trying to get back that 2008 magic. I'm sorry, but I don't think anyone's buying it, Charlie. They're trying to give off this image of a unified party. I don't buy it for a second.
So I think you're exactly right. And they unify based on just hatred of Trump and pure party loyalty. So Josh, help me understand. And I did a whole first hour on this. They were lying about their radicalism. They were lying about how left-wing they actually are. But from the stage, they had to masquerade as if they were more conservative than not just a little bit conservative, but like more mainstream than they really are, because they know at the base of the Democrat Party, their ideas do not resonate with most Americans. Can you talk about the masquerading, the deception that was on full display?
Yeah, totally. I mean, let's just take one issue. So, I mean, if there's one substantive issue right now that I think divides the current Democratic Party, probably like none other, it's probably the war in the Middle East and the Gaza, Hamas stuff, Israel, all that. So let's take a look at that. So on Monday night, Joe Biden does the whole both sides thing, right? He says the protesters outside have a point. Too many innocents have been killed on both sides. Okay, too many innocents have been killed actually on both sides, but that's not really talking about who's responsible for the killing when Hamas is firing the rockets from within mosques, within schools. Charlie, you know all this, obviously. But then later on in the week, after that less than stellar start, shall we say, you had the parents of Hersh Goldberg Poland, the American hostage. The parents were on stage. And everyone on social media, on TV, was making a huge deal out of the fact that the parents got a big standing ovation. They had a rounding applause, bring them home. Well, first of all, I mean, I watched it. That was not really the same round of applause that the hostage family who spoke at the RNC got. But even holding that aside here, the more important point is, what is the purpose of this bring them home rhetoric unless you have the policies to match it? At the same time that the DNC delegates were clapping like a bunch of idiot seals, chanting bring them home, which obviously is a message I support. I don't want the listeners here to get the wrong impression. But at the same time that they were chanting that, Joe Biden and his addle-brained Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, were making the rounds from Cairo, Egypt to Doha, Qatar, trying to do the exact opposite. They were trying to put pressure on Israel, whereas if you actually want to bring the hostages home, the only way we actually had a massive hostage swap over the entire course of this terrible war, it was last November, December, it was a massive swap. That came by putting pressure on Hamas. So if you actually want to bring them home, if you actually want to do that, you have to put pressure on the people holding the innocents captive. You put pressure on Sinwar and Hamas. You put pressure on the Ayatollah in Iran. I mean, this is just common sense, obviously, but these platitudes, this rhetoric, none of it means anything when their policies indicate the exact opposite. And, there's so many issues on that front. They're talking about securing the border. Obviously, we've had the border completely overrun, the worst illegal alien invasion in the nation's history. It's not even close. I mean, Kamala says that she's gonna secure that border. Let's ask the families whose children have been killed by teenage illegal aliens whether or not Kamala Harris is going to secure that border. She's talking about affordable housing. Let's talk about the fact that inflation reached 9.1% on a CPI annualized basis during this presidency back in 2022, a 40-year high. I mean, they're saying some of the right things, not all, but some of the right things there, but it's totally meaningless when what they're actually doing belies their leftist radicalism.
That's exactly right. And so on the Israel-Gaza thing, do you think moving forward, do you think that she just managed to tick off both sides by what she said? And as someone who is resolutely pro-Israel, can you kind of go through, if someone is like, let's just say Jewish voters in Pennsylvania, do you think they're more or less likely to support Kamala Harris after that speech?
Unfortunately, Charlie, they probably are more likely because, look, I mean, there was a lot of tension, I think, from I'm obviously not a Democrat, but I think a lot of Jewish Democrats were tense all week watching this convention, especially after Joe Biden did the whole both sides thing. You have these thousands of pro-Hamas protesters outside with the keffiyehs. There was actually even a Taliban flag in there. I mean, these are truly radical scumbags that the Democrats have attracted in the street thug wing of their party. So Kamala Harris gets up there, and she also does the both sides thing. I mean, she says the most platitudinous thing imaginable. She says that Israel has a right to defend itself. Charlie, I'm working on a book manuscript right now. It'll be out, God willing, March 2025, called Israel and Civilization, The Fate of the Jewish Nation, The Destiny of the West. And I actually talk about this exact talking point. I hate it when politicians of both parties, frankly, but Democrats do it more often, get up there and just say that Israel has a right to exist and defend itself. How utterly demeaning and belittling. I mean, would we ever say that about like Mexico or Peru or Germany or Japan? Would anyone ever say Japan has a right to defend itself or Poland has a right to exist? I mean, what does that even mean? I mean, it means absolutely nothing. So, a bunch of, of potty trained, house trained Jewish Democrats are probably clapping along like the same seals I just alluded to when they hear this. And then 10 seconds later, Kamala says, on the other hand, what's happened and blah, blah, blah is inexcusable, which obviously way too many people have died, but you're totally ignoring the question as to who was at fault here. So to answer your question directly, yes, I actually do fear there probably are a lot of center-left Jewish Democrats, center-left, maybe Christians who care about this issue, who probably were falsely and incorrectly assuaged by Kamala Harris's speech last night. But they shouldn't be. They definitely should not be. And the fact that the Democrats have attracted this street thug movement outside of the arena, the fact that people were waiting with bated breath all week to see whether these so-called uncommitted delegates, the Hamasniks from Dearborn, Michigan, and Little Mogadishu in Minneapolis, that we were all waiting with bated breath to see whether these miscreants would try to shout them down with Genocide Joe. I mean, the fact that we were waiting to see whether that would manifest itself, I think, says all you need to know.